We're going to talk about ego in survival situation. That's what happens. That's how you end up becoming dead, is by your ego. So urban survival, or I'm sorry, wilderness emotional survival. So not a lot to deal with out here. No people, right? You are going to spend a lot more time burning calories, building shelters, fire, water, food, shelter. You don't have a lot of supplies. It's going to be exponentially harder. So you want to remember something called risk versus reward. What's the risk versus what's the reward? If I do this, do I do more work getting there than the reward from it? You have to remember that. Same thing in life. All right. So if I build a shelter right now, the risk is I burn a lot of calories. I burn up a lot of precious moisture that I have in my body. What's the reward? Well, I'm going to be warm. I'm going to probably, hopefully, keep the sun off me, keep the rain off me, keep the wind off me. Wind will sap the heat out of you pretty quickly. Same thing with the ground. That's why I have some insulation on the bottom here. Remember Monday I talked about different resources, fire, water, food, shelter. Which one comes first? Some environments, it's not going to be the same order, right? If I'm in the snow, my first priority is what? Fire. If I'm in the desert, my first priority is what?
Water.
Water. Enough light to walk around and look for water. There are natural cues for water. Some certain vegetations, like mesquite trees in Anza Borrego, tends to be water towards the closer surface around the roots, right? Some animals give cues that there is water about. Birds flying in certain different directions. What's that?
It's like dung or tracks.
Dung or tracks, okay, yeah. All right, you follow those, you might lead to water. But certain birds fly towards water in the morning. The presence of bees indicate that there's water near you. Now, if you've been for a spot for too long and there's bees around you, chances are they're feeding off the sweat off your body, and that sucks a lot. It happens a lot in Anza Borrego. So you become the moisture. What's that? And so the other thing about emotional survival is keeping from panicking, right? Panic will kill you. You have to survive this in the first 24 hours before you can survive the conditions. Right? You can have all the cool ninja skills in the world, all the cool material and gear, but if you can't survive this, man, you're going to curl up into a ball and die. When is the best time to look for food?
Daytime?
Daytime. When's game most active?
Midday. Yeah, midday.
Morning and nighttime. Morning and nighttime. They're the same thing you are. It's hot outside. I don't want to be moving around. Be on the brush most of the day. So they're going to get up early in the morning and look for food and water and things like that. So keep that in mind. Setting traps. Now, since game is most active in evening time, you're going to have to sacrifice one of those times to set up traps. In the evening time when, it's getting dark soon, that's a risk versus reward kind of thing. All right, that balance there. So setting up traps. How much time do you have to set up traps? How complicated are the traps? There's thousands of different traps that you can make. How many are you going to remember when you're cold, tired, hungry? Two. Exactly. We're going to teach you a couple traps today, how to make them, how simple they are. And for every 10 traps you might set, you might get one animal. All right? But what they're doing is they're doing the work for you, right? Again, risk versus reward. So with emotional survival, you have to keep your brain occupied. You have to try and keep from the panic setting in. There's some people that would say, hey, let the panic run through you. Sit down next to a tree somewhere in the shade, cry, get pissed, get angry, piss yourself, poop yourself. Do what you need to do. Swear, pound a tree, beat the ground, whatever it is you need to do to get past that emotion. It sucks. There's a lot of fear right there. Your mind starts racing. I'm going to die. I'm never to see my parents again. I want to do this. I want to do that. Run through those emotions. Do what you got to do. It sucks. But once you move past those emotions, that adrenaline, all those chemicals that are dumped in your body, you begin to then think a little bit more critically. You can now assess the situation. All right, I accepted this sucks. All right, but it ain't going to do nothing for me if I don't start figuring out what to do. That's when you have to assess what's in your pockets, what's in your gear. What do I have in my pockets? What do I have in my pack that's going to help me get through this? And then you start thinking to yourself, all right, I need elements for fire, water, food, and shelter. So you begin to assess yourself. Pull out your pack, which we'll do here in a couple minutes. What do we have for each of those items? Okay, we'll go through them. And it's important that when you pack these items that you look at them in a different way, right? Yes, this is a good shelter right here. This is a good shelter. What other ways can I use that for? Anybody?
Fire. Fire.
How can I use it for fire?
If you set a fire in front of it, by in front of it I mean like over here, then the fire would get trapped inside and you'd be warm.
Radiate stuff. Though.
Radiate heat, firewall, right? Because fire is omnidirectional, right? Sends heat in different directions. If I put a wall in front of it, it's going to direct that heat back to me, right? So I can use the full amount of heat from the fire. What else can I use this for?
Protection from the elements like wind.
Well, other than a shelter.
To collect water.
Collect water, how can I do that? Good creative thinking. All right, so that's what we want to do. We want to through our gear. What can I use this for? I got a plastic poncho. I got a plastic bag. What can I use that plastic bag for? So looking at different items we'll have in our pack, we'll figure out different ways to use them and we'll utilize them. We'll talk about signaling as well. When you're lost, you gotta find a way to get people's attention. Fire is a good way to do it. There's a guy in Julius, how we had the cedar fires. Was it, I don't know, 2007 or something like that? Or was it 2003? There was Witch Creek and the Cedar Creek fires.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, there was one in 2003. And wasn't it a hunter like shot a flare in the air 500 feet from a road?
Oh yeah.
He started a fire for shooting a flare in the air, right? Because he's 500 feet from a road.
It's not very far. Why did he do that?
Why do you think?
He was lost.
And?
Panic.
Yeah, panic, man. He panicked.
Wasn't thinking straight.
It wasn't. It was dry. It was like August. Like the worst time you could ever set a fire, and then you set a flare, which will destroy a lot of things, a lot of heat coming off that thing.
What you said about anxiety or depression, like what happens if you are?
I suffer from it from time to time, more than often than not. Okay, there are certain exercises that I do that help me relieve that anxiety, whether it's from people, from work, from money. We all experience it once or twice here and there, you know. Homework is one of the things as a kid, man. I was like, oh, it'd eat me alive, dude. I couldn't think. I couldn't really just function. So what I do is I have a breathing exercise that I do. All right. I breathe it in for about 7 seconds. I hold it in for 8, and then release for another 7. And you're going to feel the same feeling you have in your stomach from anxiety. You actually feel it in your lungs. And what it's doing is help relieving a lot of that anxiety. But also those breathing exercises helps you think a little bit more, okay? And just trying to take your brain and address what's going on. Address the situation. Depression's not an easy thing, all right? I've seen many people suffer from it. Some people take medication. Some people meditate. Some people do things. They work out like crazy. They go on long hikes. I got guys that I've taken out in the woods that suffer PTSD from combat. And their therapy is the woods. We call it pine tree therapy. We go out for hikes, and they we don't see a lot. It's not a cure-all, but we definitely see a lot fall off their shoulders. You know, they're amongst brothers or with friends that know what they're going through. All right. So talking to somebody, you know, about that, you know, that's going through the same thing, it can be hard at first because people are always judgmental, right? Like you're crazy, man. All right. But out in the wilderness by yourself, you got nobody. There's no gold stars for how much you rough it in a survival situation. It's about being as comfortable as possible. And you're never going to be really, truly comfortable. In a survival situation, if you are well hydrated, you got a full stomach, well rested, you got a lot of resources around you, you're just basically camping until help arrives. Is there anything wrong with that?
No.
Hell no, man. I'll take any advantage I can get in a survival situation. Because eventually someone's got to come get me. All right? And resources only last for so long, unless you're like one of those primitive aboriginal like ninjas, which is pretty cool, man. If you're like Cody Lundeen or Matt Graham or something like that, those dudes can pull leaf out of the ground and make it last for a week for some reason. Okay, so let us start making some shelter. So let's go over and take a look at this shelter over here.